Hello and welcome to another episode of Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Krusty and I'm here with Keeney and Fisher.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
And this is the WWE segment of the review podcast, whatever you want to call it, where we're going to go over some stuff from SmackDown, because obviously we had Clash at the Castle at the weekend. So some of that has already been resolved. But we're going to go over a bit of SmackDown, all of Raw, NXT, a bit of a review, bit of a recap, any thoughts around it. So yeah, let's kick off. I don't think we have any WWE news this week, do we, Fisher?
There's one little thing actually about Pat McAfee.
Oh, here he is.
There is.
So Pat
Good
McAfee
point.
signed a full-time deal, I think, with ESPN to do with football, American football. So he's going to be off SmackDown for a few months, which is a bit of a blow because he's great on SmackDown.
He's amazing, isn't he?
They haven't announced a replacement or anything yet. But yeah, that's a bit of a blow, to be honest.
It'll probably be like Corey Graves or someone now.
They'll probably just get that Graves to pull double duty. That's what they normally do. A lot of people want Nigel McGuinness to do it, but
haven't they?
Oh yeah, he's definitely coming back. They've said he's definitely coming back. But I think he's going to be used more as like an on-screen character than a commentator going forward.
Yeah,
maybe more of a wrestler promo guy. I don't know, but I reckon maybe we'll see him in like the Royal Rumble and stuff like that.
I think we'll get him around the big pay-per-views.
When Triple H in his media scrum after Clash at the Castle, I think he was asked a question about Bad Bunny, about whether he plans to use him, and he said, yeah, he's basically in talks. But he then mentioned Pat McAfee in like the same breath as well, we've got these guys that we can bring in for big shows, Bad Bunny, Pat McAfee. So I think
Logan Paul's probably in the same category.
Yeah, I think he sees him in that kind of bracket. So
yeah, it's a shame for the commentary, but we'll get used to him not being there after a while, but it's annoying.
Yeah. All right, let's get into SmackDown then. Obviously, before Clash at the Castle, but there's actually a lot that happened not related to Clash at the Castle. Mainly because, actually, it's recorded a week before, so people were still there. But we did kick off the show with a Viking Rules match, the New Day and the Viking Raiders. Now, I know, Krusty, you were banging on about this on Saturday morning. How much you enjoyed this match?
You know what? Thinking about it, I didn't know what my top mark was going to be coming into this, but I think actually this match is probably my top mark.
Yeah,
this came out of nowhere. I actually thought this should probably be. It could have been at Clash at the Castle, quite easily, just because of the way it looked. It was a Viking match, and there's a lot of sort of Viking history in the UK. From invasions and such, but they dressed the ring like a Viking longboat, and you had all the shields around the edge. Visually, it looked stunning, and I just thought both teams really brought it here. I've raved quite a lot about the Viking Raiders since they've come back. I think they've dropped Vicious now, haven't they? So they're just back to Viking Raiders.
Yeah, it sounded like it. I think Triple H is probably like, that sounds stupid. And just I don't know. It might have just been not said, missed.
But even on the where they put the name at the bottom of the screen, that doesn't have it in now. So I think it has gone.
Okay, maybe it is a conscious decision. If it is, then I like it. It's good.
I mean, this feud feels like it's going to be going on a long time. And I was a little bit stale of the New Day as well. But actually, this match it's rekindled my liking for both teams. I thought they both brought it. It was a pretty savage match. And with all the visualizations and the weapons they were using, I just thought it was pretty damn good. I really did enjoy it. So yeah, it's my top mark, I think, in the week, excluding Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go. We've already reviewed that, and we're still buzzing from it, I think. So we're not going to keep talking about it because it will just be boring for people who didn't go. But
if you haven't checked out our reviews,
absolutely go and listen
on YouTube, Recharge Wrestling, and have a cheeky look.
There were two of them for some reason.
Yeah, I panicked and hit stop
Fisher
recording.
I
was so excited that I hit stop recording. But yeah.
I just want to quickly, before we move on, I just want to give some props to the New Day here, because I think probably us three and maybe a lot of people are getting quite bored of the New Day. They kind of haven't developed their characters at all for a long time now.
8 years.
Yeah, and they're basically
7
constantly feuding with tag teams they've already feuded with, and it's kind of repetitive stuff. But one thing you can guarantee they will give you is a good match. And they needed time to fill in a SmackDown with Clash at the Castle the day after, and they just let the New Day and the Viking Raiders, it takes four to tango, but they gave them a long, this was the good first quarter of the show. Probably it was.
It was quite a long match. The rest of the matches in the show were quite insignificant compared to this one. That's why it could have been on the pay-per-view. Really, it felt like this was the pre-show match where you put it on like the night before, but it's like a warm-up match for the weekend, and you think, just go out there and have a really good match. It could have easily been the pre-show match that we got. I don't know if it would have gone on the main card, but if they'd have done that instead of like the Madcap Moss thing they did, then that would have been awesome. But I'm not going to complain at what we got. So
no. We also got a re-debut from Karrion Kross. Beat Drew Gulak in a fairly straightforward match.
Yeah,
not too much to say on that one. We had an interaction with Ronda Rousey and Adam Pearce here, where Ronda Rousey was reinstated. And Adam Pearce just went off on one on her.
This was a great promo.
He lost.
I don't know where it come from, but this is a great promo.
Yeah, this was really odd. And it got me thinking, are they trying to position Ronda as a face? Because Adam Pearce came across as a heel here to me. And I thought the whole point of this weird, sort of a feud, this weird mini interaction with these two was for Ronda Rousey to be more of a heel. But I actually think she could come across as a face here, which I don't think is the right direction for her. But
I don't mind if she's just like a badass in between, like tweener almost. Where she's not really a heel, but she does heelish stuff, but she's just a badass so the crowd cheers. That stuff works with someone like her. It's what Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day wasn't a typical babyface. He would do heel stuff, just go around stunnering everyone. But because he was such a badass,
similar to Kevin Owens, isn't it?
And Kevin Owens is the same in a way. Ronda Rousey kind of fits that mold for me in that sense. Brock Lesnar as well, when he was the babyface version of Brock Lesnar.
Well, even the man version of Becky Lynch.
Yes,
was
exactly. These kind of characters who aren't really babyfaces, but they get cheered because they still beat up bad guys, but they do it in a heelish way sometimes. Might say something heelish. I'm all for. I actually think that's the perfect way to use Ronda Rousey because I don't think she's a good normal babyface. I also think as a proper heel, she's okay, but again, I think she's going to get cheered, and I think that's the problem with it. So this kind of in between thing is works for her.
I can only think the reason they'd be doing it is if they want a Shayna Baszler feud, and Shayna's the heel.
Yeah.
So you have
that. Yep. That's a good point.
And I want that to go. If it doesn't go that direction, I don't see what either of them are going to be doing. Now Shayna's lost cleanly to Liv. I really can't see what she's going to be doing. I could easily see her attacking Ronda as a bit of a statement, which could be quite good.
Yeah, but Ronda told her last week that she wants to see the more vicious side of Shayna. She's like, you used to be a killer. So I think the seeds are planted, and I actually think I was confused as to why she'd come across as a face, but I think you've probably explained it there, Krusty. I think they will be lining up Ronda v Shayna, which is the perfect spot for both of them to be in right now.
Well, Adam Pearce's promo was fire though.
It was great, and I wonder if we're going to get some sort of weird match between the two, like an intergender match. It wouldn't surprise me. We can just have Ronda beat him up.
That'd be really
because the feud feels like between
Adam
the two.
Pearce even knows he's soft though. It's never like he's acted like tough. Why would he go against Ronda?
I don't know. Or he'll get someone to. He could. I know what they could do.
He could get Shayna.
If he's he could get Shayna, or he could even use Sonya Deville. I know they fell out and that she's not an authority figure anymore, but you could do some storyline there with Sonya Deville because she's even an MMA background type person. So they've got people they can use that would fit into this storyline if they wanted to. It's I thought it was really good,
doesn't it? Because Triple H loves like an authority storyline. I think
he also loves like
with them in the past.
Yeah, he also loves legit people that are like fighters, actual fighters. So there's a mixture of
legit bosses as well.
Both of that. Yes.
Maybe soon. Just a couple more matches and then we'll move on to Raw.
Yeah.
Nothing to mention here, but Hit Row beat Maximum Male Models, and then we had
it was good to see them finally in the ring. Maximum Male Models. It's been so long.
Their debut match.
But Hit Row rightly won, didn't they?
Yeah. Then Carrillo and Garza come down and attack them, and then Street Profits come down to help Hit Row. So it was Street Profits on SmackDown, or I don't really know. They've been on SmackDown for a few weeks in a row now. Street Profits. wonder if
they've been on Raw as well, though. It's weird. I don't know why they're there.
Yeah,
they're just popular, aren't they? So
yeah, there isn't really. But I think we're going to get an 8-man tag probably this Friday of Hit Row and Profits v. Los Lotharios and Maximum Models. And then we had Nakamura v Corbin. Is a Corbin Open challenge, and I was interested to see who was going to come out here because I thought there's a chance, we know what Triple H is like. It could be Danny Burch could come out here. I don't know who's going to come out, but it was Happy Corbin. The match itself, nothing to write home about. Nakamura got the win, but the interesting thing was Corbin obviously looked dejected, walks backstage, and we see JBL's limo pull up, and he gets in with JBL, which is a very
we assume it was him. It was his limo.
I think he spoke. I think you could hear his voice.
Yeah.
Somebody said, "Is that JBL?" I'm sure one of the commentators.
Yeah, I think the commentator.
Michael Cole did say it. Yeah.
I mean, it is JBL.
So I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting manager alliance there. I think it actually works really well.
And I think Corbin needs a change of character to a more serious.
I'm excited to see Corbin actually win something. I said it the other week, and I think you mentioned that that's his job to just get destroyed, but I want to see him actually be decent for a while.
Yeah, it can't be his role forever. It can't always be in this heel that loses.
Yeah, because he lost twice to Ricochet. Well. He lost twice to Ricochet, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then to Nakamura, and it's like, well, you have him lose sometimes, but he shouldn't lose every single match.
And this is a guy who's won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He's won Money in the Bank. It's not like he's done nothing. It's pretty crazy how suddenly he's just crap. But no,
I guess if they can build into this story where he turns.
I'm excited because we know he's good when he does this sort of stuff. Like when he got really into the changing to Happy Corbin, we were loving it. We were so
I thought him as bum ass Corbin was amazing.
Yeah, it's great, wasn't it? So I'm hoping we get that enthusiasm again. This is probably one of my favorite. It's one of the things I'm most looking forward to, I think, at the moment, to see where this goes.
Yeah, it is intriguing.
Yeah, me too. It's intriguing. So there's quite a lot of good stuff set up for SmackDown this week as well. Obviously, with Solo Sikoa's debut. Well, so Sikoa's first appearance on the show, I'm assuming. See what Drew does. We see what Cross does. I think there's quite a lot of intrigue around SmackDown now, which is good.
There is, and that's actually a good segue onto Raw because there's a lot of intrigue for Raw, and mainly for the turn we saw at Clash at the Castle of Dominic, and to see where he would like. I think you guys said it on your review pod that he didn't actually align with the Judgment Day. He kind of walked off on his own and they sat laughing. And I think we weren't sure whether he would be in a Judgment Day, but we learned quite early on into the show that he had joined the Judgment Day. And can I just say his look is phenomenal. Dominic, from this like kid who looked about 12 years old to look as badass as this is quite a impressive switch. And I think you made the point before, Krusty. I think it was you saying about his hair. Yeah, obviously the longer hair, all slicked back, dark clothing. Really, yeah, his facial expressions the whole time were brilliant. And obviously Edge wanted to get his hands on Dominic, but Ray, rather than just being angry at his son and want to attack him, he's still giving him the benefit of the doubt, and he's not quite ready to attack his son yet, which is probably the right way to go. Yeah, because you wouldn't realistically just go straight into wanting to beat the shit out of your son, would you? it probably would. It takes a bit of time for him to get to that point. Yeah, but I think they should wait this out till Mania, Ray and Dominic.
That's a long old stretch now from here, though.
Yeah, but
if they were going to do that, they needed to wait for the turn.
Edge is now injured, isn't he? I said storyline injured.
They're doing Edge versus Dom next week.
Do you really think that's going to happen?
That's been advertised.
Yeah, but do you think it'll properly happen? I think the Judgment Day are going to get involved again, kick the hell out. That's too big a match just to throw on Raw, surely.
I don't know if it is because it's Dom. I think Ray versus Dom is a big match. I don't think Edge versus Dom is a huge match in the sense of it's quite obvious that if it was just having a normal match, that Edge would win easily.
So you're gonna get. I can see them building this and have Dom get one over Edge a few times before he actually manages to get his hands on him.
Maybe. I love what they've done so far, and the Rhea Ripley presentation and her saying she made him into a man and stuff.
Brilliant.
I love all that.
Yeah, just I think you can. You guys said about maybe being too far WrestleMania, but I think you do a storyline where you have Dominic injure Ray, and Ray's written off TV for a few months. Dominic and Judgment Day in the meantime destroy people, just destroy a couple of faces on the card, and then Ray comes back at the Rumble Mania season, and then it's like, okay, I've had enough now, Dom. You've injured me. You're now attacking like innocent people. So now
you've also had
I'm
Edge
teaching you a lesson at Mania.
You've had Edge on TV for a long time. This surely isn't. I'm sure his contract is not every week on TV. So surely he's got some time coming up. So like you said, that would fit in with your story. I think next week they just absolutely ruin Edge, and we may see him at Survivor Series, Crown Jewel, something like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I could see them rushing it. If they do have a proper match and Edge wins, I mean, well, what then?
Yeah. Yeah, that is the problem. I don't know where they go, but it's interesting. It's definitely, I really like what they've done with the story. And like you say, Ray not knowing what to do is the key part of that. If he'd have just turned straight away to Dominic and started beating him up, like, yeah, you're right. It wouldn't have made much sense. I think they can drag that out for a couple more weeks yet. And then eventually Ray's going to flip and go, I've had enough of this. You need to put it in your place. And but I don't see it going to Mania. I just think the story's been told a little bit too early, but I'd love it if they did. Don't get me wrong, but the storyline of writing Ray off for a couple of months is great, but then Ray has to not want to work for a couple of months. If he's okay with doing that and for the long-term storyline, then great.
He ain't a spring chicken anymore.
No, I mean, him having a couple of months off.
Working a lot, hasn't he, lately?
Yeah, him having a couple of months off. To be honest, if you drag the storyline out a few weeks until, sort of October, you've only got 3 months to the Rumble. It's not that long.
Yeah, but it's long enough for Dominic to cause shit. Sorry. We also got just as a follow up from this, we got Priest against Ray on this show, which Priest won when Ray went for the 619 and Dominic kind of got in the way, and then Priest got the win. So we saw like the first little chink in the armor of Ray from his son here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was everything that come from that match. And I'm looking at the rest of the stuff happened on Raw. Actually, let's talk about the main event. I think the rest of it is either skid mark or top mark territory. So I think we should go on to the main event.
Yeah.
Which is the United States Championship steel cage match. And when I saw this advertised, I thought this is a bit random. But then Miz actually explained it at the start of the show when it was implied that he wanted it to be a steel cage, so he could keep Dexter Lumis out. Which, yeah, we
all knew what was coming, didn't we? In terms of Dexter Lumis's involvement here,
we did. But another US title match, not only on the show but main event in a Raw.
Yeah.
It's happening regularly now. I mean, there's no other top men's title on Raw, so I think it almost has to at this point. But a good match in itself. A lot of involvement from Ciampa. A lot of people trying to escape from the door and then smashed by the cage. But really, the crescendo of the match is the Miz climbing over and Lumis appearing from under the ring. They got a lovely camera shot.
I thought the camera shot of this was fantastic. That was the best.
I'd love to have seen the cameraman. Was he just like hanging off the?
Yeah, I know. I did wonder. I was like, "Where's that cameraman?" He's like hanging from the roof. If anyone's got a
photo of the cameraman, send it to @RechargeWrestle Twitter, please. We'd love to see it.
We would. But yeah, and then he comes back into the ring, and then obviously Lashley gets the win. Interesting that the Miz was that close to winning the title, because if it wasn't for Dexter Lumis, he would have won the title, which gives him more ammunition to go after Lumis.
I was still annoyed with them using the door. Triple H.
Yeah, I know.
Why are you using the door?
I know.
At least they didn't actually win through the door. They teased it. They used Ciampa. I think they did it, but I think they had to use the door for this spot though, because Ciampa had to get involved for then Miz to smash Lashley's head down enough for him to get over the top, because Miz isn't beating Lashley up and climbing over. Like that would have made Lashley look really weak.
Though, where they could have just walked out. That's
what
I hate about
it. They do it too often. They did it a couple of times too many, maybe in this match. But in terms of the ending spot, I think they had to do that to And like Miz smashed his head a lot of times against the cage. Because Miz looked like he was going to beat Lashley. Makes Lashley look quite weak, but the way they did it didn't. So I think that's why they did it that way. But yeah, the camera shot was great from Loomis, and Loomis actually finally touched the Miz as well here, got his hands on him and stuff afterwards. So that's the first time we've actually seen that. So I think this is up the feud a little bit now. We've moved it forward. We're probably going to get the match soon.
What's the end goal of this? Just Loomis v
some
Miz match?
Weird stipulation match at Extreme Rules. You know, they love a weird stipulation. They did zombies. They've done all this weird stuff at Extreme Rules. They're going to do something strange at Extreme Rules between these two, I reckon.
Dexter's weird.
Dexter Loomis has got Extreme Rules written all over him in terms of like some weird stipulation. And Miz loves doing this kind of shit as well. Like he doesn't mind making himself look silly. So yeah, I think that's where we go with it. That is coming up, isn't it? So I think that makes sense.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And then you can have Loomis's in-ring debut on the main roster, and at least you're doing it on a pay-per-view rather than doing it on Raw.
Yep, makes sense. All right, does anyone want to go into top mark, skid mark territory? Because that's
I was just going to mention Johnny Gargano's debut next week on Raw.
Go on.
Speaking of in-ring debuts, so Johnny Gargano had a little promo with Theory, didn't he? And Theory, I liked Theory saying you're more like Johnny talking now because that's all you do. And then Johnny Gargano said that he's having his first match next week, which I can't wait to see. I don't know who it's going to be up against, but put him in there with like an Ali or a Ziggler or someone who can have a really just a good match with and win.
Ziggler would make sense in terms of Theory being involved as well.
Yeah.
Based on their mini feud they had.
I'm really interested to know what the direction was going with Ziggler.
I don't think they ever had an idea with Ziggler. I feel like that whole him turning face has been so bizarre. I don't think anything.
Well, that was Vince. That was when Vince was still in charge when he turned.
Yeah, I know, but I don't.
So I think Vince might have had it. I think Vince might have had some plan, but I don't think Triple H is necessarily following through with it. So I don't know. We'll never know, will we? Realistically, we'll never know what Vince was going to do. I mean, who knows what Vince was going to do? To be honest.
No. Can I go into a skid mark before? Because
go for it.
I get negativity out of the way now.
Skid all over the floor.
And we've been talking about like debuts and returns and all stuff, and we got a return on this show, Braun Strowman, which in itself is not my skid mark, but this whole segment is. I just thought this was. We've praised Triple H so much for all of the progress he's made and all the things he's got rid of from the Vince era, and this just screamed of Vince McMahon at his worst booking here, because we had a tag team number one contender match and the four teams involved made absolutely no sense.
I agree with that part of it, by the way.
The New Day
it made sense after to me. And
but
only because Braun beat them. If Braun beats up the Viking Raiders look shit. That was what I realised why they did it after. At the time, though, you're completely spot on. I was like, where are they?
Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. But we had the New Day just lost Lotharios. Well, they've better been on TV.
And that's why they were there to get beaten up by Braun, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gable and Otis haven't done much. And then I can't remember who the other team was. Street Profits?
Street Profits,
everyone, who had loads of matches with the Usos. So when the match got announced, I was like, well, which one of these is going to fight
I didn't want any of them to win. But I was thinking maybe Alpha Academy. Because them versus Usos would be okay. But I was like, we don't need New Day or Street Profits again. And lost the Farios.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. But after the match ended, I get why they did it.
Yeah, and so also, one thing we've praised Triple H for as well is building up his tag division. He's brought in, we praised him. He brought in Vinci. We got Imperium back together. He brought in Hit Row. He's Legado del Fantasma coming up soon. He's done a lot to the tag division. And for him to introduce someone by taking out 4 tag teams on his own just completely devalues the whole tag division like that. He's just devalued the whole tag division. And like nothing come of it, because now we're being told Braun's going to be on SmackDown. So why the fuck was he on Raw here decimating 4 tag teams for nothing to come of it?
The only way this will make sense for him to be on Raw is if he has some weird involvement with the New Day or Los Lotharios because they're on SmackDown. Otherwise, if they don't even interact with them on SmackDown and he's involved in something completely different, then it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Well, and also he appears to be a face.
He wants the tag titles and he's going to team with Nicholas again and defend Usos.
No.
Not Nicholas. I was joking about Nicholas.
Nicholas
Imagine
is
yeah, he's probably an adult now. It's probably like a good wrestler.
I just think if this segment happened during the Vince era, it'd have been groans and moans. And I just think
I do agree with you to an extent.
I think this is the worst thing Triple H has done since he's taken reign.
In terms of getting Braun over, though, back out, like reintroducing Braun himself, take away the tag. I agree with you on the tag division element of it. In terms of getting Braun over, having him beat up 8 men, he went through Otis through the barricade, Dawkins through the
That's a good spot.
Like that was good. The only thing he did is he fell over.
He's convincing us that he's actually a decent wrestler. If he just went through a load of jobbers and a load of security guards, it's like, okay.
Well, that's how they were treated.
I wonder if they're going to push him towards something big, which is why he needs to have some convincing.
Just for me, when I
We've
heard
seen Brock do it before.
Yeah, when I heard Braun was coming back, or when you hear anyone's coming back, you want them straight away to have a plan and a direction. And this just felt like a classic Vince McMahon call up or return, where he just throws them in just to throw them in with there's no direction. He's not going to have a feud with any of these 8 guys. I'll be surprised if he does. Maybe I'll be wrong.
I would be as well. To be
he
honest.
is just. This is like, if they'd have brought him in and he'd have interacted with Omos straight away, I'd be like, oh my god, yes, I'm looking forward to Braun. But already I'm like, why do I care about Braun Strowman?
Maybe he's going to go for them on his own.
Yeah, to me, this just.
It was a weird segment to put him in.
Yeah, this just skidded my pants, and this is my skid mark this week. I did not enjoy this segment at all.
It's a shame because as well as bringing someone back and straight to a skid mark, like that's not good.
I know it is a shame. I do like Braun Strowman, by the way. I want to just make that clear. But this was a bad. It's not. I say him coming back is actually a good thing, but he come back in the worst way, in my opinion. Yeah. So I know, Krusty, you've got a skid, and I think you've got a top mark here, Fisher. So I don't know which way around you want to do this.
Well, I backed down on the skid mark. I'm just, it's not fully skid mark, but I'm not too keen, because I didn't realise it wasn't a title match. If it was a title match, it would be skid.
I have a little observation from after this match, although they kind of undid it on NXT. But if you want to talk about it, are you going to talk about what?
My match. Yeah,
sure.
You
talk about it. And I'll tell you what. I realised afterwards. No, I spotted something afterwards online that made it a little bit more interesting. And Nikki Cross
okay. I might be quite keen on that then. Well, basically, we had the tag team champions come out, and then their first. It was already a bit of an iffy win, wasn't it? The fact that they won because of interference between Damage Control and Oscar Alexa and Bianca. So took away the sort of celebration of them winning it, I guess. But then their first match just felt a bit pants against Doudrop and Nikki ASH, who I don't like as a tag team anyway.
No, and they've wrestled 3 nights in a row this week.
Yeah, they're like the most used tag team in wrestling. It's crazy.
Just to get beat though most of the time. That's the thing.
Yeah, it just didn't. I was just thinking, Triple H, what are you doing? I understand they have to be somebody, but it just didn't feel good. I didn't want to watch it. I wasn't interested in the slightest.
The crowd was quite dead from it, I must admit.
I'm not surprised.
But I don't think the chat that Raquel and Aaliyah being champions helps either. I don't think that's down to just to Nikki and Doudrop. I think that's all 4. Not one of those 4 is that over with the main crowd. I mean, Raquel's probably the most, but none of them are that popular, really. With the main,
just doesn't make them feel important at all, and doesn't make them feel like legitimate champions. I'd have had them beat someone a little bit better.
So to clarify, is this or is this not a skid mark?
Oh, let's skid it. Yeah, I've skidded it all over.
Okay.
It's the way I've said it.
Now, one thing I want to add to that is later on in the show, something I didn't notice at the time, but I noticed afterwards online. There was a segment later on where Damage Control were walking backstage, and there's been quite a few segments recently where Nikki and Doudrop are like arguing in the background. And there's a segment where they're arguing, and Nikki takes off her mask and throws it at Doudrop. And I was thinking, well, what's that leading to? But then weirdly on NXT, they just acted completely I've got a different theory, but on NXT, they just acted totally normal and didn't even mention it. So I was a bit confused. But if they're just going with a storyline on Raw, I think we might be changing the gimmick again of Nikki ASH and possibly Doudrop as well, which I think could make them a much better team. If then Nikki Cross and Piper Niven as like a Scottish badass duo,
that could be quite cool.
That would be a good tag team.
Yeah.
It's the gimmicks they're in that make them uninteresting, and I think they're heading towards something like that because they keep losing all the time, and Nikki's getting angry. We can tell with those backstage segments. So I think it's going somewhere. But NXT then told me different, so I'm not sure. But we'll wait and see. But it's just something to look out for.
I'd actually
Might
be
make them more
interested in them, I think. Yeah, I definitely would be.
Because original Nikki Cross is really good. Like her gimmick was really good when she was in Sanity. And Doudrop or Piper Niven when she was in NXT UK, again, great. So
apart from the silly name, I didn't mind Doudrop in general.
No, but
wrestling's pretty good. The stories have been pretty good. Nikki ASH, I do not like that gimmick one bit.
So before we move on too much, I just remembered something from my skid mark. It's actually a positive from that tag team match. Is we got a point where Kofi and Xavier were both tagged in at the same time.
That was amazing.
And then Kofi went to pin Xavier just to get a quick free count because they had two legal men. Yeah, never seen that before in a.
That was genius. Yeah. I appreciated that spot. I love.
I just saw that.
I was meant to say that. I was thinking about that all day. I was like, that must not forget, and then I forgot to say it. But I'm glad you brought it up.
That was the best thing about that segment.
It was great. So let's move on. I think I've got a top mark, but there might be. I don't know if there's any other segments to discuss before we move on to that. I'll end with
I've got no other segments.
Yeah, I can't actually think of any, Fish. So I don't know if you've got any other.
There was a segment between Bailey and Belair. Where they kind of teased during the match, but Belair wanted it that night. Bailey said no. That's going to happen at Extreme Rules, isn't it? Clearly.
Yep.
So there was that, and I'm just looking to see if there's anything else worth noting on Raw. Oh, there was a little after Clash segment with Riddle and Rollins as well. That was okay, and I think again a rematch there because Riddle asked for one. Seth said no. Why would I? But again, I'm pretty sure Extreme Rules were going to get the rematch there. But I'll move on to my top mark now, which was Kevin Owens and Theory, or Austin Theory.
Austin Theory.
Got his name back. Tommaso Ciampa's got his name back as well, by the way, which is great. Yeah. The segment was really good, but the match was great. And I watch Kevin Owens every time, and I'm like, this guy is not going to have a long career because he absolutely kills himself, throwing himself off the apron. Theory smashed his head into the steps in this match.
Oh, that was a brutal spot.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
And KO was flying around the ring. And yeah, they just had a really, really good match here. And the crowd was so into KO again now as a babyface. And I'm loving that because we thought, is KO going to be a babyface in this gimmick? But again, like the Ronda thing I was saying earlier, he was designed to be a heel. But because he's so cool and good at it, it's kind of automatically transformed into a face gimmick. And obviously he had a message from Roman here. He went like that at the end. So I think we're going to get him either versus Roman or we're going to do the Sami thing with the Usos is probably the more likely option when Solo Sikoa kicks Sami Zayn out tomorrow, which is my prediction. And says that he's the third Us, not Sami Zayn. But there we go. I think I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. But yeah, just awesome segment. And they had the promo before it was good as well. Some good jibes from Theory about KO not winning titles in years. KO references losses against Roman, which I love it when they call back to stuff that happened 18 months ago. And Theory as well was doing some weird selling where he was knocked out so bad he forgot where he was. He called the pay-per-view Crown Jewel. Then he said something else, and I thought he was just messing up his lines, but he wasn't. He was actually selling the fact that because Tyson Fury knocked him out, he had a bit of a brain injury. And he was holding his jaw. I thought it was great from Theory here as well. But yeah, really enjoyable segment. And for me, the best thing on Raw this week.
Yeah, it's probably the best wrestling match of the week. Although there is actually a match from NXT, which I think was pretty damn good. But we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, I thought this was a great segment. And I guess the only slight negative, although I actually agree with the decision, is you're getting your Money in the Bank winner looking weaker and weaker by the week.
Yeah, I was worried they were going to do a non-finish here. And KO's had he had one with Drew a couple of weeks ago. It was a great match and had a non-finish. I was worried they were going to do that again. So I'm glad he just beat Theory clean.
Theory just keeps losing. And
they do this with the Money in the Bank.
It's almost like Triple H is doing it on purpose to get back at Vince. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of your Money in the Bank looking so weak. Even if people don't want him to cash in and want him to be
I wonder
successful.
whether this
They always
story
do
though
it
could
money
go
well.
quite nicely with him being weakened and weakened and weakened, that we almost don't expect him to be able to cash in, and then he does cash in somewhere. Not necessarily on a world title. Maybe he gets so low that he thinks I'm going to cash in on the mid card title, Intercontinental, or
NXT title.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Like he just turn up in
24/7
NXT and pin Braun
title.
Breaker. Yeah, weird. Yeah, 24/7 title. That would be a waste of time.
Is that it from Raw?
Yeah,
I think we are raw
yeah, that is it. Yeah.
out, which means we're going on to NXT, I believe.
Yeah,
which is
NXT.
where I
up
take
next.
my leave because,
Yeah.
as usual, I am way behind because I'm useless. But I hope you have a lovely.
A man with a life.
Yes. There's been too much wrestling this week, and I prioritize.
It has been,
AEW
man.
There's
over
been way
NXT.
too much wrestling this
So
week.
enjoy your time with Keeney and Fisher, and speak to you soon. Bye bye.
See you next week, Cross.
See you later. So let's just do a quick overview because I don't think there was loads to talk about on NXT. But you said you had a match that you thought might have even been better. But so
I
why don't we kick off
thought,
for that?
yeah, I thought Axiom and Nathan Fraser was
Okay.
very, very.
I was
good.
going to say a different match, by the way. That I thought
It
great.
was lightning. I mean, Nathan Fraser. Every week, I think I like him more. He is so quick. Like he feels like the quickest wrestler.
He's
ever.
amazing in the ring. He
his
needs
character's
work on his
kind of
character and
pointless.
promos.
And
I don't think he's there,
quite
but-
like these two guys have got nothing going on really. So
No.
I quite like them to just have the best of three. Axiom won this one. Fraser will win the next one. Then we'll go to a third one.
Yeah, obviously Fraser's
And
gonna
what
win
I
the second
think will happen is I think we're going to get a tag team here.
one. Yeah,
I
and I'm
think
all
we're
for
gonna
that.
get Axiom
Actually,
and Fraser, because these two guys' wrestling styles just match. They just work really well. They're both lightning. They're both quite, all right technically as well. I just think these two could.
I think that
be,
makes sense from tag team and at the end of it. Because
Good
what's
tag
the
team.
otherwise? What's the end goal? One of them wins 2-1. What are they going to then do? One turn on the other, and then you have more matches. Like there's not.
Yeah.
For me, that's overdoing it. So yeah, a bit of a bar-esque
Yeah.
story. That was
I
best of
just
7, which is
think
maybe too many. But
For I'm not even going to say mid card, your lower card of your NXT roster, to have two people put on a match like this, I was very impressed. And this is one of those matches, sometimes it's early in the morning when I'm watching these shows because of the, timings when it's on in the US.
Yeah.
You wake up and, 7, 6 a.m. you're sat here watching NXT, you're kind of eating your cereal half asleep. Sometimes you kind of zone out of stuff but this match, I was like, Jesus Christ, I've got to pay full attention to this because it was lightning. And just really
yeah, it was.
maybe
very
it
good
just
and
shocked
nice.
me.
I like the idea of the storyline as well.
Yeah.
There was another match on the show that did that for me a little bit, and I personally I think this was the best women's match of the week that I've seen, and that was Roxanne Perez versus Meiko Satomura. I thought that was
very
brilliant.
good.
And even there's a Seth Rollins tweet as well yesterday where he talked about how much weekly TV wrestling we get, which is great, and he put this match in there, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, he mentioned. He didn't mention himself, which is good because you don't want to put yourself over. But he mentioned a few matches from Clash, and he mentioned Swerve v. The Acclaimed, which I thought was a cool little nod as well. But he mentioned Roxanne and Meiko, and I thought this was an awesome match. I thought they had great chemistry.
Yeah,
and I think Meiko Satomura she's so experienced and like really good, and can bring the best out of people. And Roxanne is so good. She's got a massive future in WWE, I think. And this match just ruled. And then there's the Cora Jade feud, like still in the background afterwards as well.
Cora Jade come in with a baseball bat, was it? And she absolutely hammered that into the back of Roxanne Perez. No holding back on that at all.
Roxanne showed it
on
her Twitter, actually. A picture
did
of
she?
it. So,
that looked brutal. And
I thought that was a banger of a match.
We know the feud here is Roxanne and Cora, but I think we have Satomura and Jade next week, I believe. I think they announced that for next week, so that'll be a good one. And as Satomura is not doing much else, have her involved here. Although her character from NXT UK was kind of that she was just legend and people just were dying to wrestle against her, but she didn't have much of a character. And that seems to be what happened here. Roxanne was like, I really want to wrestle you. So I hope she gets a bit more of a character, Satomura, because in ring, she is the best they have in NXT. I think
she's amazing. Yeah, she's incredible.
It's actually a bit weird when they signed her and put her straight into NXT UK.
I'm guessing it's because she's not really from
roster.
the States. I think it was more to do with geographical location. I think it was purely because of that. She's used to wrestling in Europe and Japan and other places. I don't think she's, apart from in WCW in the 90s, I don't think she's wrestled in the States for that long, you know. So I think it was maybe because of that originally, but maybe she's happy to work in the States now.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I love this match.
Brilliant,
It was really good. What else was there from NXT?
We had another good match between Ricochet and Trick Williams.
Yeah.
This was a really good one. Not too much on this one.
No, Ricochet just got his sort of revenge after losing to Carmelo in a banger at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was one of the matches of the whole weekend. That was awesome,
that match, yeah.
They some of their spots, Ricochet and Carmelo.
I mean, we knew it was going to be good, and it lived up to the hype.
And we got off the back of that. Carmelo learned that the NXT
so we've got a couple
fans will decide his opponent.
Yeah, and have you seen the options online?
No,
they're rubbish options, honestly. I voted on it because I was thinking, is it a free fall? Can you vote for anyone on the roster? That'd be awesome. But there's 3 choices. Wesley, good choice.
Yeah,
feuded with them a bit before. When I clicked, he had 71% of the vote.
Okay.
Von Wagner, who I don't think anyone wants to see, and Joe Gacy.
Oh, I assumed it'd be Ricochet.
I thought they were rubbish options. I voted for Wesley because I think that'd be a good match.
The other 2 options run back Ricochet and Carmelo.
Honestly, I thought you'd be able to pick from like 20 people, and it'd be like really interesting. But no, it was rubbish.
Oh, okay,
and there was also another vote, isn't there, for stipulation?
Yeah, for the tag team title match between Creed Brothers and
Pretty Deadly.
Pretty Deadly,
yeah. Pretty Deadly were cool on this show. I liked them on this show.
They were everywhere, weren't they, on this show?
Yeah, they were around a lot. But yeah, I think they're really entertaining. I'm a fan of theirs anyway. But yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Probably mention the main event stuff as well.
Yeah. Yep. Main event, we had the Coffee Brothers of Gallus, so not Wolfgang in a tag team.
Yeah.
Against Bate and Breaker. We had Bate come out at the start of the show, then Gallus come out, and then Breaker make the save.
Yeah, set up the tag team, obviously.
Set up this match. I mean, looks like we're getting Bate and Breaker again. Or are we getting a triple threat? Because after the match,
Madonna
come out, took out Bate, Breaker again, trying to make the save.
Madonna v Bate is like ultimate NXT UK match, isn't it?
It is. Well, even Gallus against Bate feels a bit like, it just feels like NXT UK is taking over the main event of NXT.
It feels like things they just do on NXT UK repeated, basically.
Yeah. But I think a triple threat match of McDonough, Bate, and Breaker could be seriously good. I think that would be really good if that's the direction they go. I think that's probably what they're setting up in the moment. That seems to be the most likely match for me. But the main event match itself was good. I just thought Bate and Breaker worked quite well as a tag team. They just a couple of like in sync moves and stuff.
It was all right. There was nothing wrong with it.
Got their win. Looking through the rest of NXT.
Well, there was the Damon Kemp thing was the other interesting thing I got from the show, really. Obviously explaining his decision obviously it was him that took out Roderick Strong and explained why he did it. And yeah, I mean, that's a twist I wasn't expecting, to be honest. Damon Kemp to be the one that kind of breaks up the group. We all thought Roddy was doing it. Roddy gets taken out and Damon Kemp's the one. So that's interesting. Do you think his brother's going to have any involvement in this and they're going to do the Creeds versus, because that feels like it could be the direction here?
Yeah, I don't know. His brother's a real surprise. I'm not sure what his brother's doing because we saw him at Mania for a bit with
I read something the other day about like there's not much planned for him at the moment at all.
Well,
they're not sure what his future is, but
they were Triple H again. He had an interview with Ariel Helwani on BT before Clash at the Castle, and he mentioned in there that he was, before he had this his heart attack, whatever that health thing he had last year before, he was in talks to have a match with Gable Steveson at WrestleMania, or to be involved with Gable Steveson as like a way to introduce him at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Triple H was meant to be involved, but obviously then he couldn't. Then that got derailed because they wanted to propel Gable Steveson, and nothing's really happened with him. So I don't know.
No, he was at Mania, wasn't he? He was involved in the tag team segment with Gable and Alpha and the Prophets. Yeah, but other than that, he's been missing. I'm not sure what's happening with him, but yeah, it feels like that would be a good way to introduce him though, because the sort of Creed brothers and their amateur wrestling kind of style against literally a gold medalist in amateur wrestling would be a perfect way to go. And I think personally he should go into NXT first, because I feel like on the main roster he'll just get swallowed up if he's not got much of a character. He's not done. I mean, Kurt Angle nailed it when he did it 20 years ago, but not everyone's him. Not everyone. He's a generational talent. Not everyone's as good as that at adjusting. So I think it makes sense to put him in NXT with his brother first, even though he was drafted to Raw. I think go back on that personally and do that if that's the direction they go in.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. We mentioned also other stuff on NXT. We mentioned Doudrop and Nikki ASH. They got a win.
Yeah,
Toxic Attraction.
I mean, it kind of undone the story that I thought was happening on Raw, which was a bit odd.
So a slightly surprising result. And I think the worthwhile thing worth mentioning was Tony D'Angelo and Stacks were backstage drinking coffee for the whole show.
And they beat up Cameron Grimes.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes basically turned them down.
Cameron Grimes is a weird one because he was kind of involved with Gacy. Now he's involved with this. He just seems to be floating around backstage. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I think they might involve Gacy here because next week he's got a tag team match against D'Angelo and Stacks, and he doesn't have a partner. And I think Joe Gacy is going to be his partner.
That's a good point.
That's
exactly what is going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they'll do.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
So that means Joe Gacy cannot win that vote if that happens.
That's weird.
Yeah,
that's a good point as well. I think that's it for this week, really, on WWE. So we're going to obviously we're going to have an AEW pod as well, aren't we?
So we will leave that one here. So if we mentioned at the start, if you haven't listened to our Clash at the Castle review, check that out on our YouTube channel. Just search Recharge Wrestling. You may already be there by watching this video, but check it out. If you're listening to us on podcast format, that's where to find us. We're also on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle. So get involved there. We have predictions and all sorts. We've just done 2 lots of predictions for the last weekend. I don't know when the next pay-per-view PLE is, but we should have a little gap now, really, because we've been inundated with 3 in a weekend. Like everything we cover had a weekend.
October the 8th, I think, is the next one, Extreme Rules.
Okay, we got about a month then. So but we are putting out our weekly shows as well as just tweeting general wrestling news and opinions. So check us out there, and also check out our AEW review, which will be out similar time to this. So they'll both be out there. So if you're into AEW as well, check out our review of Dynamite and Rampage, and we will see you guys next time.
Goodbye.